Let's talk about why a lot of women are not confident in who they are. And I need to say boldly, many of us were raised in cultures where our worth is measured by what we have, not who we are. Today, I want to talk about why so many women were taught to outsource their worth. And I'm going to show you how to take it back. And if you ever felt like you weren't enough simply for being alive, this message is for you. Stay with me because what I'm about to share may disrupt how you've been taught to see yourself, but I believe it will set you free. It set me free. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. I'm Fatima, and this is the Confidence Collective. Today, I want to speak honestly, compassionately, and courageously about something that doesn't get named enough, especially in collectivist cultural upbringings or African culture, which I identify with. Let's talk about a truth too many women know all too well, but we stay hush-hush. We like sweeping things under the carpet. We've been taught, sometimes outright, sometimes in whispers, that our worth is something we have to earn from the outside, that our value only arrives after we secure a husband, after we have children, after we win society's approval or collect impressive accolades, especially if we already had the first two. If you've got a husband and kid, you've kind of climbed up the social status ladder, but they still want more from you. It's never enough. You still find they'll still be like, well, your husband should do this for you, or something is not good enough about your husband or your children. Yes, I will not deny that ambition, cultural values, and high standards drive us forward. But let's not ignore the harsh reality. This belief system is a silent trap that chips away at our sense of self, our safety, and our wholeness. It chips away at our confidence. Life is not a checklist, and neither are you a project to be completed, sis. Just know that this video isn't about blaming or shaming anyone or shaming cultures. This video is about waking up. It's about breaking free from the old, predefined narratives of our worth and reclaiming our power. Why? Well, some things are not so helpful in the current world we live in now. It's time to recognize our inherent worth with no conditions, no exceptions. And I'm inviting us to free our minds and step into the fullness of who we are already. And that is worthy. We are worthy. Repeat that with me and say, I am worthy. Experience how good that feels. So there's a core truth. We've outsourced our worth. And there's something profoundly harmful when a culture does not see your value or your being, but only values what you do or have. Or a society that does that. I've noticed something over and over again. When many people speak, it's always, finally, God answered my prayer, I got married. God answered my prayer, I have this home now. I have that son now despite the fact that they have daughters. My shame is gone or covered because they've acquired some external accolade or validation, as though life only begins once something external arrives. Look, I am not against celebration. I'm not against ambition. Yes, sure, let's celebrate. But where is the reverence for simply being alive, for waking up breathing, for having a mind, a body, and a soul, for being created? So many of us were never taught to say, I am grateful that I exist. I am enough because I'm human. I am thankful to have loved ones around me. Instead, we internalize this belief that something is missing, something is broken, something is incomplete, until we add something from the outside. So daily life becomes hustle, struggle, and seeking and never fulfilled. It is a capitalist lie. Have ambitions, but your ambitions are not more important than who you are. When your worth, safety, significance, and security are outsourced, when they live outside of you, something dangerous happens. And what happens when worth isn't inherent? When your sense of value is tied to external things like possessions, status, achievements. What happens when those things are threatened, stripped away, or lost? The ego boost vanishes. The illusion of significance crumbles. And when that happens, you don't just mourn what's gone. You're left grappling with a deeper emptiness. You're not just grieving the loss. You're having to confront the void where your worth used to be. It is very exposing. You lose yourself. It's like being stripped of your identity. It can bring unwarranted shame too. And then what follows is years, sometimes decades of rebuilding. It's actually trauma. Your worth, confidence, safety, identity, dignity, and self-trust, gone all because one thing collapsed. And yes, we can grieve loss as it's human, but the devastation of the self, of what it does to you, that comes from misplaced identity is very painful. It is scary and very confusing. And I say this not from theory, but from lived experience. I know just how brutal and disorienting this struggle can be when you feel like you've been stripped of everything that you thought you gave you meaning. So Perhaps I will share my own example of my own awakening for this video. So for a long time, I could not see myself as inherently worthy. I needed something outside of me to feel meaningful, to feel secure, to feel valuable. And no one taught me differently, largely due to the experiences I had growing up. Yes, I had a belief in God, but I still didn't feel I was enough because I needed these other external things to be fulfilled. And I'm not coming from an anti-community when I talk about this. Let me be clear. This is not about rejecting our communities or blaming our upbringing, as I appreciate that we're not meant to live in isolation when we need people and we need connection. I recognize that community strengthens us when we bring our whole selves into it. But community is meant to support us while we're supporting each other and not define our worth. The foundation of some of our communities needs to change and needs to shift. Shifting from identity outsourcing to interdependent belonging in communities. The key difference is this. Interdependence means we rely on one another while fully recognizing and respecting our individuality. We support each other but never lose sight of who we are. In contrast, identity outsourcing is when we let others define our values, beliefs, and sense of self, and the latter breeds insecurity and performative lifestyles. The more we outsource our identity, the further we drift from our true authentic selves, entering competition with the Joneses. To give an example from my coaching work of how this affects us, and this is why I'm bringing this topic, one of the most painful patterns I've witnessed shows up in plenty of female clients who are raised by single mothers or in poverty, not by choice, not by desire, but by circumstance. And because many of those women were taught explicitly or silently that marriage was the proof of their worth, and something heartbreaking happened to their soul, to their spirit. Enter the struggle to love and accept yourself. When you struggle to love yourself, it becomes incredibly difficult to extend your love to others freely. And who suffers? The children. To love freely, you must experience love without conditions, comparisons, and without emotional withdrawal. And psychology also confirms this truth that a person who feels fundamentally inadequate will struggle to affirm another person as enough. So clients come to me because they don't feel enough. And they're like, I never felt enough, even from the way I was parented. They'll tell me that it felt like there was this emotional disconnect that they are experiencing, that they also experienced from childhood. And to go back to the struggle is when a man entered the picture, many of my clients described feeling something shattering. They felt emotionally abandoned the moment a relationship arrived in their mothers' lives, not because their mothers were evil, not because their mothers were unloving women, but because that relationship became the validation and proof needed to address the need for worth and significance. The relationship became identity, and it said, I finally matter. And this is what happens when worth is outsourced, guys. Your life and everything about you becomes conditional, meaning I will be worthy when this happens in my life. I will be enough when someone chooses me. I will finally rest when I achieve this or that. And I understand this deeply because many of those mothers were raised the same way, and it cascaded onto their children, onto their daughters. They were taught to trade their worth until something comes into their life, which becomes the permission slip to finally exist fully. This pain didn't start with them, but it will continue to pass through generations unless it is named. What is this pain, you might be asking? The pain of not being enough and outsourcing our worth largely by whose standards? I ask you to fill in the blanks. Why do you not feel enough? Why do you not feel worthy? Why do you need it from out there? Who told you that? And here's the reframe where worth comes first. You do not need to add something to your personhood to be whole. You are not an incomplete human being waiting for a title, a ring, a role, or recognition, accolade, external validation. You are already a whole, worthy human being. And I say this because when we die, we don't go with these things. And when we come into the world, we don't come with them. Meaning that they are things that help us on our life here on earth. They're not meant to be you. They complement who you are, worthy, enough. And I would love you to understand the reframe and get it because it will free your life. You are already a whole, worthy human being. Everything else, love, partnership, success, so romantic love I meant, motherhood, achievements and accolades, we're always meant to be an addition to your existence and for the overall flourishing of humanity. We should be teaching each other to say, I am grateful for my life. I am thankful for who I am. I enjoyed small wins today. To stand in inner gratitude and in our inherent value. In worth that is not up for negotiation despite external circumstances not being idyllic. And from that grounded place say, it will be beautiful to share this life with someone or others. It will be lovely to invite this experience into my life. I love sharing and serving this human cause, not from desperation, fear, or from erasing ourselves just to be chosen. This is what it means to approach relationships from worth and wholeness. A partner does not give you worth. They meet you in it. And that is why simply meeting someone or achieving accolades or reaching milestones never heals the inner unmet need or void. Ask all the successful people in the world, apart from dictators. In fact, it mostly amplifies it because what was never built internally, chasing something outside, it becomes difficult to extend externally. It's draining. So instead of blaming yourself when relationships collapse or don't materialize, instead of resenting others when things fall apart, instead of asking, why am I not enough? Why don't I have this in my life? The real question is, where did I learn to outsource myself and my worth? And when you find that answer, sit with it, don't shame it or judge it, but bring healing to it instead. Because the moment you reclaim your worth, something happens to you and your generation. Because I'm talking to women here. We've been outsourcing our worth. This action in motion creates a pattern break where you stop passing the wound forward. And that is how cycles end. There will be backlash because if we were freely outsourcing our worth to people, to things that didn't deserve it or just didn't treat us how we should be, there will always be backlash. But that is the evolution leading to the taking back of our personal power, of your personal power. Taking back your power does not look like control. It's a release. It looks like release. When the outside validates you, the outside will control you. Power returns to you the moment you stop trying to manage outcomes that you cannot ultimately control. You cannot change people. They have free will. You cannot negotiate someone into seeing your worth, and you do not need to shrink, perform, explain, give, or overfunction to be chosen and approved. Know that healthy relationships are built on reciprocity. Instead of outsourcing your worth, where your worth is recognized without you having to prove it, that's where healthy relationships are. The healthiest growth is from self-honoring behavior. Growth is not from self-sacrifice, which pretends to be selflessness, because that's false. You're not growing, you're shrinking. There's a difference between self-sacrifice and sacrifice. Emotional labor is seen as it is. Labor, work. Because when you're the one doing all the emotional labor, you really don't become more loved. We lie to ourselves when we tell ourselves that. You become exhausted, you become resentful, and slowly, quietly, you lose yourself. I have been there, so I'm speaking from my soul. That is how codependency disguises itself as loyalty, and self-betrayal is mistaken for commitment. So on the other side, there's a different life, where you are grounded within yourself, where your worth is no longer outsourced, and something sacred begins to happen. Your true essence takes the lead, not with force, urgency, but with a profound, gentle clarity which unfolds. You may feel called to invest in friendships or invest in new ventures or adventures. You may feel called to nurture family bonds, to create a family, to deepen intimacy, to build life alongside another. Not from lack or inadequacy or fear of being alone, but from the overflow within you. In other words, from your fullness, you start making soul-aligned choices, not from the ego's needs. And that is a powerful place to be and to love from. It's a powerful place to build from and a powerful place to exist. Our communities must shift from teaching people how to survive and stay alive to teaching people how to love themselves from the inside out. Because love is what changes lives. Love is what heals families. Love is what transforms relationships. And self-love, real embodied self-love, is what breaks generational cycles. People are more self-aware, reflective, with less shame. I believe this because it is transformational. It is how we move from survival to emotional thriving, from hypervigilance to safety. Fully loving yourself heals your relationship with you. And when that relationship is healed, every other relationship begins to change. Not because you tried hard, but because you finally came to a place of self-acceptance. I have a video on self-acceptance, which you can watch up here or over there. It's not what's in your life or what's not in your life that makes you whole, that makes you worthy. You are worthy. If this message spoke to you, I want you to know you're not broken. You were simply never shown how to walk from wholeness. Understandably so. Our humanity has gone through a lot. I'm a confidence coach for Black women, and I would love to walk alongside you on this journey of reclaiming your worth. You'll find free resources linked below in the description. One of them is my confidence archetype quiz, where you can discover how your confidence uniquely expresses itself. If you're ready for deeper work, you can book a one-to-one coaching call and see if we're a good fit. And if this video resonated, like it, share it with another woman who needs this reminder. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue this healing conversation. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. I really believe that when we start to know the treasure that's within us, it will shift our humanity. But we need to start somewhere, and maybe we are the beginning. Take care, subscribe, like, share. Bye.